Cozy Company. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make a pillow poof. For this project you will need one ball of yarn, some polyfill, scissors, and an optional stitch marker. To get started you want to find the end of your yarn and leaving about a 12-inch tail you want to make a loop similar to the breast care awareness symbol. So we are going to make a loop with the tail laying on top and the working yarn, the yarn that's attached to your ball of yarn, on the bottom. We're then going to take the yarn on the bottom, your working yarn, we're going to put it up and through that loop, grabbing it with one hand and pulling down at the tail at the same time. Now to ensure that no polyfill comes out of your pillow poof, I recommend doing loops about 1 to 2 fingers wide. Once we have our slip knot done, we're going to be working on our foundation chain. Now your foundation chain can vary depending on how small or large of a pillow poof you'd like to do, but for a medium-sized pillow poof, I recommend chaining on 18. So how we're going to do that is I'm going to take my thumb and my pointer. I'm going to put it through this loop that we created here, going from the front of the loop towards the back of the loop. With those 2 fingers, I'm going to grab and pinch my working yarn, which is the yarn that's attached to my ball of yarn, and pull up a new loop the same exact size. That is 1. I'm going to do the same thing again. Take my thumb and my pointer, put my fingers through, going from the front towards the back, grab and pinch that working yarn to pull up another loop the same size. That's 2. I'm going to do that 16 more times. Again, it's very important to keep your loop size consistent throughout. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and last one, 18. Once we've chained on 18, we are going to connect our chain into a circle. So we are going to do that by taking our starting tail where we started. We're going to fold it inwards like this, so the tail is now behind this loop, the last loop that we just pulled up. I'm going to take this tail and I'm going to put it through the back of this bottom portion of this loop that we just have sticking up. So right where my finger is. I'm going to take the tail and I'm going to put it through the back towards the front, and I'm going to pull into my 2 ends meet. So now I have a circle. I'm going to go ahead and put my stitch marker on this loop that's sticking up, so I know that this is the first loop of my row. I'm now going to be pulling up loops through each and every one of these bumps of our foundation chain. So right here's the loop that I have sticking up. Right next to it is a bump or a ridge in my foundation chain. I just want to find the very top part of that bump. And again, I'm going to put my fingers through, going from the front towards the back. I'm going to grab and pinch that working yarn to pull up another loop, so now I have 2 loops sticking up. I'm going to go to my very next bump in my foundation chain, which is right here where I'm putting my finger, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to put my fingers through the front towards the back, grab and pinch that working yarn, pull up a new loop, so now I have 3 loops. I'm going to continue going all the way around my circle. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and 18. At this point, your very next loop should be the loop that we put the stitch marker on. So we've just completed 1 row. I'm now going to start my second row. So I'm gonna go through this loop that has the stitch marker on it, and very similar to what we just did with putting our fingers through the bump or ridge in the foundation chain, I'm gonna do the same thing but through each and every one of these loops that I just created. So going through the loop that I have my stitch marker on, I'm gonna put my fingers through, going from the front towards the back, grab and pinch that working yarn to pull up a new loop the same size. Now I'm going to move my stitch marker to this new loop that I just created, indicating that this is the first loop in my second row. So now I'm just going to continue that process going all the way around until I get back to my stitch marker. So again, putting my thumb and my pointer through my very next loop that I had created, grab and pinch that working yarn to pull up a new loop the same size. And then I'm just going to move on to my next one and do the same thing. I'm going to continue doing that all the way around. And as I'm going, I am turning my work very slightly, so that way my loop that I'm working on is always facing right in front of me. Now I'm back to my stitch marker again. So I've just completed my second row. When I go through this next loop where my stitch marker is, I will be starting my first loop of my third row. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And once I do that, I'm going to move my stitch marker up. So now I've done loop 1 of 18 in my third row. Now, if you don't like working in a circle like this, turning your work, you can also fold your work in half like this. So you have 9 loops in the front and 9 loops in the back. So with your work folded, you can just continue going to each and every one of these loops. So your work is laying flat as opposed to a circle. And once you've completed the front 9, like that, you can simply just flip your work to do the back 9. Both methods are completely fine. It's just whatever works best for you. So I've just completed the back 9. I'm going to flip my work again. And notice that the very next loop is the loop with my stitch marker. So I've just completed row 3. I'm going to continue this process for 15 rows total. So I'm going to do about 12 more rows. Now this will differ from person to person, depending on how tight or loose you knit. So the bigger your loops, the holier your pillow poof will be. And the smaller the loops, the tighter knit your pillow will be. We always recommend doing smaller loops for the pillow poof, so that way you can ensure that no polyfill will come out. So I'm going to go ahead and do 12 more rows, and then I will meet you back here. I've just completed my 15 rows. So at this point, my pillow poof looks something like this. Once we've completed our 15 rows, we are going to close off the bottom. So using that 12-inch tail that we left in the beginning, I'm going to take it and weave it through each and every one of these bottom bumps or bottom ridges of my foundation chain. So right next to my tail, you can see one right here. I'm going to take my tail, I'm going to put it through the inside of the pillow towards the outside and gently pull. And then I'm going to go to my next bottom bump of my foundation chain right here, and I'm going to do the same thing, going from the inside of the pillow towards the outside. And each time I do that, I'm going to pull gently but firmly. So now I will go to the next one and do the same thing from the inside to the outside. And I'm gonna continue going all the way around through each and every one of these bumps of the bottom portion of my foundation chain. As you can see, as I start to go around, it's starting to close up that bottom hole. Now that I've gone all the way around, I'm just gonna simply take my tail and go across. So I'm gonna find a space somewhere across right here, and I'm gonna put my tail through the inside of the pillow, going towards the out, and pull, so that way that hole is closed. I'm then gonna tie a knot at the base of my tail, like this, and I'm gonna stuff both the knot and the tail to the inside of the pillow through that hole that we just closed off. So now that we've closed off the bottom portion of our pillow, we're ready to stuff with polyfill. So I'm gonna flip it back around so my loops that I have are sticking up. I'm gonna grab my polyfill and I'm gonna go ahead and stuff my pillow. Feel free to use as much or as little polyfill as you'd like. Once you've stuffed your pillow, you're gonna take your tail that you ended with, and if it's exceptionally long, you're gonna go ahead and cut it about 12 inches. So I'm gonna take my scissors and I'm gonna cut my tail about 12 inches. And then very similar to what we just did with the foundation chain, we're gonna do the same thing but through these loops. So I'm going to take my tail that I just made that's 12 inches long. I'm gonna put it through each and every one of these loops from the inside of the pillow towards the out. So right here next to my tail, I'm gonna go through my first loop from the inside to the outside. I'm gonna hold on to this loop, the one next to it, so that doesn't fall out. But I'm just gonna go around and do the same thing. I'm gonna go to this loop next and go from the inside of the pillow towards the outside and gently pull. I'm going to continue doing that all the way around. Now you want to make sure not to pull too hard because you don't want your yarn to snap, but you want to pull firmly. So that way this hole closes up. So as you can see, I've gone all the way around and my hole still isn't closed up. So I'm just gonna shimmy these loops down a little bit to create some extra slack for me to pull. And I'm gonna do that same thing one more time, just shimmying them down a little bit so that way all that extra slack I can pull and it can close up. Now, since the hole is very small, I'm gonna go across just like we did on the other side. So I'm gonna find somewhere directly across from where my tail is, and I'm just gonna put my tail through the inside of the pillow towards the out and pull. And then I'm gonna go back one more time across from the inside of the pillow towards the out and pull. Now that I've closed up the hole, I'm going to create a knot at the base of the tail and then stuff both the knot and the tail through that center hole that we just closed up. Then you can kind of fluff out your pillow a little bit to get it to the shape that you want it to be. Voila! You have made your first pillow poof. If you have any questions, concerns, comments, feel free to reach out to me via email. It's linked within the PDF. I'm usually pretty quick to respond, but if you need anything at all, just know that I'm here to help.